Hey, what's up, guys? So today I'll be going over my third week of my challenge to turn $1,500 into $40,000 trading penny stocks. Okay, I usually this video I uploaded it a little late. I usually have uploaded them on Sundays, I think. But anyway, I didn't give up on my challenge, so now I will get into my trades. Alright, so here are my trade alerts. You can see I did a trade on RTTR there, and then I did two other day trades there. Okay, and so my net worth dropped. It was like 949. Now it's 916. Because I had ended up with a 1% loss on the week. Okay, so the first trade I made was on RTTR. Now this trade, it wasn't too big of a loss, but I shouldn't have even bought this trade because they were diluting their shares. Let me show you here if I have to scroll a bit. I'm going to show you what I mean. So here's the company's name, and then here if you're looking at the SEC files, I use nasdaq.com. I type in the ticker, and then that's how I look at the SEC files, and the ones that usually have to do with dilution are the 424B forms. So in this one, if you can see it on the upper right hand corner, this is 424B3 form, and then so when they dilute their shares, they're usually they're low on money, and they add shares to their float and they sell them to investors at a discount, and then these investors can usually just sell these shares at to make a profit at a higher price. So anyway, here I just noticed that the price of so let me see if we go back here. Okay, you might get a little dizzy. Okay, but we see the high of day here from where I bought was $1.17. Okay, and so now, yeah, I should have organized the pictures to make it close to each other. But anyway, so now I see that I circled here. So you see I circled Series B convertible preferred stock, and I circled that of these, they're gonna have about 4 million shares that they're gonna add at these Series B convertible preferred stock. And then if I scroll down, I would see that when they talk about the Series B convertible stock, I circle they have a conversion price of $1.30. So that means, knowing this, if we look back at our chart now, now what this means is that if the stock were to hit $1.30, we can expect there to be selling pressure of the 4 million or so shares that are being converted from the Series B stock. So anyway, I knew this when I was going in, and yeah, you saw Donald Trump tweet. I'll talk about that in the next trade. So anyways, short sellers, they tend to short excuse me, they tend to take excuse me, they tend to take advantage of these offerings or dilution. So when the price was $1.17, they could see that, okay, that's not too far from $1.30. So yeah, anyway, this wasn't then a good trade because I knew already that, oh, if it even does hit $1.30, it's probably not going to last because there's going to be 4 million selling pressure as those Series B shares are being converted. Okay, so yeah, I shouldn't have even entered that trade. So now on to the next trade, WKHS. So now you can see where I bought. I circled. I bought around like $1.30. And then when I sold like around $1.60. It was a 23% profit. And then the reason why I was, I really wanted to, when I knew I was well over 10%, I just sold it as it broke its high of day. Because I wanted to value consistency, because last week I had trouble and I was trying to make 50 to 100% sometimes, and sometimes I'd be up like 10% and it would end up being a loss because I'm trying to swing for the fences. But anyway, on this in this case, I did miss out on 100%. Again, I sold, you might say, too soon. But anyway, regardless, this was still a good trade because these big moves, sometimes they're hard to predict. But anyway, the news that moved this stock up, and notice the company's name is Workhorse. It was a Donald Trump tweet. Okay, so he was saying in the tweet that, GM, General Motor, that's a big company, will be selling their plant, one of their plants to Workshore, and then his plan was to, create more jobs in Ohio. But anyway, the news, it wasn't, I think like the contract from GM to Workhorse wasn't confirmed yet, and anyway, it was still kind of like it wasn't that confirmed, so that's why I didn't want to hold the stock overnight. But anyway, that was the news that caused this big run up. Okay, and now I think the stock is like down to $2 or something. But anyway, but this trade was good, and then on this trade, I'll talk about it some more, but I shouldn't have even bought this trade, but I bought around, or I shouldn't have even entered. Yeah, I shouldn't have bought the stock. But here, though, I bought this was kind of like a sympathy play to this stock. It was like around about the same price. It broke the $1 area, and then they did have some news related to like some car news or something. But it wasn't that big of a news. But there was one key difference. The stock had heavy resistance. But anyway, from where I bought and then where I sold, it ended up being like a 20% loss. And then that put me down on the week, only 1%. So now what I mean by heavy resistance, notice this is AETI. And then the high of price here this day was 161. And so if you remember my unicorn pattern, I said I like to buy stock that has big news float rotation and record high volume. So on this day, and I said it can cause the stock to spike 50 to 100%. So on this day, this stock, it did have big news, and by the end of the day, it almost rotated through its entire float, which was, I think, like 60 million. The float, and it had record high volume. But this stock, it didn't have record high volume. It had kind of big news, but it was more of a sympathy play. It was really just up the next day because of this stock was up and it had some car news. Whoops. Okay, and so now I will show you an example of, so if you can see this chart here, this is the 1 year, 1 day chart, and I drew a yellow line where the day that it had the run up when I traded it. And if you notice underneath the gray bar, it's a lot taller than any of these, the gray bars, under the previous days, and the gray bar represents the volume. So this stock, it had record high volume this day. And so then what that means is that, although you can say like, okay, maybe around $150 to $160, there might be a little bit of resistance there, but that's considered light resistance because there isn't heavy volume underneath there. This is the first day it's trading on such high volume, so we can say that this is a clean chart because it doesn't have any heavy resistance. The day that I bought it, it didn't have that heavy resistance. Okay, but AETI, if you notice the yellow line you see there, that's the day I bought it. And then, but if you look underneath, you see the gray bar. It isn't even as high as, if you see here the blue line, I drew a line through these two candles there, and if you notice underneath there, like about 3 months ago or so in December, it had 2 days where these volume, they were like 30 million, I think, on both of those days. So if you add them together, there's like 60 million volume. So you can say there is like around 60 million resistance around the, you could argue like the high 50, or like around $1.50. And notice the stock this day, it wasn't able to break its high because it had heavy resistance. And short sellers, they love to short into heavy resistance. Okay, so that was the difference between this stock, clean chart, no heavy resistance. This stock, these 2 days, heavy resistance. And so that's why when I, on this day here, when I bought, I shouldn't have entered, because if we notice 161, this is the, this is showing this day, each candle is 1 minute there. And so that's why you could see all day when it just couldn't break its high of day. And anytime it went over 150, the predictable pattern is that it's going to go down because short sellers are shorting into that heavy resistance. Sure enough, the 3 times we see like it went up over 150, like soon after it went down. And so that's because here short sellers like to short into heavy resistance. So yeah, it would be another thing if, one day it broke that heavy resistance, then I might buy, because then a potential short squeeze could happen. But anyway, so that's the reason why That this trade I shouldn't have even entered because there's heavy resistance. It's not likely to break its high of day. And so yeah, so that's why it's not completely random. Oh, and then I also showed, if you saw last week, a recap where I bought on ABIO. It was a similar thing where like that it looked like kind of similar to this chart where I bought and looks like I sold way too soon. Going on into the next day, it went. It could have been like where I missed out on 100% gain also. But anyway, this was similar like this day A bio was, where if you can see like the yellow line, um, you can't really see, but if you notice that the gray bar, it even went above the green candle that the yellow line went through. I don't know if you can see that. So anyway, on that day, it definitely had record high volume. No day got close to that trading with that high volume. And on this one, I think the float was only like 1 million. And I think it traded like 20 million that day. So it definitely rotated through its flow and it had big news. So that's why, my unicorn pattern, it doesn't seem too random. When I can say like, okay, the stock, excuse me, when you can make 50 to 100%. So anyway, I just threw these three charts here to show you what heavy resistance looks like on a daily chart. And then versus like a clean chart when it just has such record high volume. Okay, and then so those are my trades, and then this one was going on into the next week. So I'm gonna just do these videos weekly. So I think this is the third week we said. So those are my trades, and then let me see here. So here I wrote down on the notes. We can see. So on this week here, we can see, so on RTTR that ended up being a 6% loss. And then when I bought Workhorse shares, that was a 23% gain. And then I had an 18% loss on AETI because we said there was heavy resistance. And so anyway, on the week that put me down 1%. Okay, so that's it for now. Okay, goodbye. It's pretty dark now. I might start uploading some different kind of videos, like gaming videos, and then I do have one video set on private that I might upload. It was like a music video review kind of slash parody. I might upload that. I'll see. But anyway, goodbye. I will see you next week with next week's trade recap.